Hi there, and welcome to March Madness on For Sale by Owner, FSBO Smarts Podcast. I'm Steve Klein, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the news from the National Association of Realtors. We're also going to look at some statistics and some changes, and also just how much house can you buy now, 4 years later. We're going to get into that and more, but first, this intro. Hey, this is Steve Klein with the FSBO Smarts Podcast, bringing you the best tips, tools, and techniques on For Sale by Owner as it relates to your real estate purchases and investments in investment real estate property, as well as the home you sell for yourself, for sale by owner. So if you're interested in that, click the like and subscribe to the podcast if you can. Now let's get into this. You know, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine over social media, and it was about a statistic that came out, and it said that today it takes $106,000 of annual income to buy a house, where 4 years ago, that same price cost analysis, it would have been $59,000 annual a year. And that makes sense, right? Because interest rates have gone up significantly. I mean, you used to be able to buy more of a home just 3 or 4 years ago, and you can't buy that today, especially with the interest rates going up. Now you might say, well, Steve, that sounds bad. I mean, that's a bad thing, right? No, actually it's good, because you don't want inflation to run crazy. That's if you would have let it go without increasing those interest rates, you would have been paying $20 for bacon. I don't know if that's true or not, but you would have been paying a lot more for the goods and services that you and I enjoy, especially in the U.S. Now, that's not to say that this isn't happening other places in the world, but right now I'm speaking specifically to the United States. And right now, the economy there's this little bit of inflation there, just a little bit. The average household would spend around $800 for groceries, let's just say 4 years ago. Today, if they were spending $800, it would be now closer to $1,200 to $1,300, and in some places $1,400. That's a significant increase, and you know that it's across the board that way. Now, to curb that, obviously they have to raise interest rates so that it'll curb inflation, and when they do that, it changes how much a person can borrow for a home, and that's where it comes into us, you and me, being able to sell our home for sale by owner. We got to make sure that whoever's qualifying can afford it. Now, obviously, that's not our job. That's the bank's job. The bank's job is to pre-qualify the buyer. So it's not your responsibility, even if you're selling your home for sale by owner. It's not even the real estate agent's responsibility. I mean, they'll say it is, but really they're going to another third party. They're saying, hey, have you been pre-qualified? And by the way, when we've talked about this in one of our episodes, I think it was from 2 years ago, where we talked about pre-qualifying the buyer, right? You want to make sure that buyer's pre-qualified. But what I mean is, make sure that the bank has a pre-qualification for any of the buyers that come your way. And right away, you'll know if they qualify for your house. But anyway, the reason I brought this up is because when I brought this up, one of my friends was like, oh man, and I think that she's around, I want to say 30 years of age, and it was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to get into a home. And there's a real estate agent friend of mine that responded to her and said, hey, I know well, first of all, they didn't believe it. They were saying, oh, this can't be true. And the agent said, yeah, it is kind of true. You know, it's like, sorry to tell you this, but it's the case. And so what she did was she said, well, I just feel like I can't get into a home, you know, and that's really not the words she used, but it was like, I just feel like it was almost like this have you ever felt like, oh, it's just useless, I'm not going to be able to ever get into something like this? And he said, you know, it seems bad, but there are ways you can get into it. And I started thinking that is true. You could have a second job. You can take a part-time work on the weekends to save up the money you would need for a down payment to buy the house. You can get together with a friend of yours and be roommates in a house. You could kind of co-op or co-own the house. I've heard of people doing that, and even two couples coming together on a big house, sharing the cost for about 2 to 3 years, sometimes even 5 years. They save up enough equity and they both can then sell that house. They both have shared equity in it, and then they can go and buy their own individual homes. So it is possible, and I look at it like, what's caused this? What's caused the escalations of home sales to where, or home prices rather, where they can't even afford it? And I like to think that in for sale by owner, we are really we're kind of solving that problem, right? We're solving the problem because we are part of the solution. Whereas a real estate agent will jack up the price, we are grounded and say, you know what? We know what our house is worth. If we want to drop it by 10,000, we can drop it by 10,000. We don't need to play this game where we're constantly pricing people out of the market. And that's what real estate agents tend to do. And they're not doing it on purpose. It's not malicious. It's just that if they know that the market will bear this, for example, let's just say California people from California are moving, right? They have $1 million home sales because their houses are so expensive. Some of them are having to lower it now because people aren't moving there as much as they used to, but they have a lot more money to put into the market. And so real estate agents, knowing this, they know that these California buyers are used to that price, and so they jack it up so high. And they really don't need to, because in reality, let's just say they were moving to Seattle or a suburb of Seattle, and they know that these California people will want to pay $50,000 more. They might jack that price up just to $50,000 more, and there might have been a time where they could have got that, but not in today's market. So today's market, it's balancing back out where it should be. And so if anything, for sale by owner is part of the solution, because we're not artificially inflating what the market should be and thus pricing a lot of people out of their homes. And so I think that it does come back to balance. And so what I said to my friend there after the real estate agent politely said, hey, no, there's still possibilities. There's still ways around it. One of the things I suggested is maybe you can talk to your local legislator, and maybe you guys could talk about making new laws by which real estate agents may not be able to jack up the price so much if there's an area where the growth doesn't see that. Like the example that I used for California, for example. That's just an unfair market shift that should never happen, artificially inflating the prices. Now, I don't know the solutions. That's just my personal thoughts. But you see where I'm going with this. There's always solutions. And so be it taking a second job, even though that could be hard, having laws that are put into place. The economy in America seems to balance itself out. So we just have to kind of be patient there. All right, so now let's go on to the news on the National Association of Realtors. So this is from their February 26, 2024 article, and it's regarding January 2024 existing home sales rebound to 4 million. Now that's pretty good. And this tells us something, because I always see trends like this happening, especially in January and February. It seems like after the holidays, people have this new interest in starting to look for homes. I know that when we were selling our home for sale by owner, people started to come back around in February, but we saw hardly anything in December, hardly anything in January. And we were being like, we need to sell this house. But then February and March came around. Right in March, we had an offer. So it comes pretty quick. But these statistics kind of say the same thing. It says the National Association of Realtors released a summary of the existing home sale data showing that January's housing market activity increased by 3.1% from December of 2023. January's existing home sales reached a seasonally adjusted annual rates of 4 million. January's sales existing homes weakened 1.7% from January 2023. So as you can see here, the chart showing increasing from last year, going down, way down in September, down here to this 3.85 in October, November, back up to 4,000 in January. If we keep going, we see the national median existing prices for houses are around $379,100, which is kind of funny because that is exactly the example that I use a lot. Is the $350,000 home sale price. In January, that's up 5.1% from a year ago. So we see here the median sales prices of existing home sales. The West still leads by a pretty good margin, $572,100, and this other one is $538,400 in January. All four regions showed a price growth from a year ago. The Northeast had the largest gain of 10.1%, followed by the Midwest with an increase of 7.6%. The West increased 6.3%, while the South region rose by 4.1%. And that tells us a lot, right? Because we can see that this trend is going up a little bit, but it's still kind of overall stagnant, I think. And so from a real estate perspective, the real estate agents are probably going, a lot of them, especially the seasoned ones, have saved a lot of money in the good season, which we've just had incredible sales. We've seen a lot of people, for sale by owners, but also real estate agents, make buck in the last 4 or 5 years. So those seasoned professionals will more than likely have saved all that money, knowing that the winter's coming. And I don't know, I'm still looking at this here and I'm still seeing winter looks like it's coming. If I go down here, it says it takes approximately 36 days for a home to go from listing to contract. And if you remember just about 2 episodes ago, back we were talking about in January, I think it was 24 days or 25 days. Now it's saying 36 days. You see how it's getting longer and longer? And again, I've seen it before in the past where it will take 3 months, 6 months. And mark my words, it will, if the interest rates keep going higher, it will be months. It won't be days anymore. And so this shift will kind of continue going forward. From a year ago, 3 or 4 regions had declined in sales in January. The West had increased 2.8%. The Northwest was the biggest dip of 5.9%, following the Midwest, which fell 3.1%. Yeah, so again, the West is really where everyone's leaving, and sales are down because who wants to pay $1.5 million for a 1,300 square foot home in California right now, especially with just everything that's going on in the world with the economy and everything like that. So we're seeing a big shift right now. Things should settle down, and I don't want to pick on California, but they are just to the south of us. So it's just kind of interesting to see all the changes and the shifts happening right now. Okay, so that's all we have for today in this episode. So stay tuned for our next episode in April. We're going to talk about the rates that the Fed's going to talk about. There's a meeting coming up in March 19th and 20th. And so we should have some information about that. We'll talk about where our course is. We're still trying to transition it. It's been a little bit longer process than we thought, but you're going to love the new website. You're going to love the new learning management software that we have, and it's going to be great. So stay tuned for that. And remember, we're going to have a relaunch this summer, hopefully this spring, but if not, we'll be launching this summer. Look for that in May or June, and we will be launching at our founding price. So again, it's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. I know the course has helped a lot of people. So other than that, I think that's going to be a wrap. So remember, live life to the fullest, save thousands of dollars on your next home sale by doing for sale by owner, and we'll see you in the next episode.